All right. It's so awkward starting off. Always, it just feels unnatural. Hi, everybody. So we just finished the Sinatra section. I just spit everywhere, dude. Yeah. We just finished the Sinatra section of our coding bootcamp. Now we're getting into Rails, but because we finished, we have Sinatra projects that we had to do now. So I did my Sinatra project on using an API from zomato.com, which is a place where you can essentially just search restaurants. And I knew, so the Sinatra project wasn't really originally supposed to go in the portfolio, but I knew I wanted to put it in the portfolio. I wanted to do something that I felt like was good enough to put up there. So I went kind of hard on it. I don't know if it was necessary. But the downside to it is the code isn't great. I'm definitely going to have to refactor that. So keep that in mind. If you know Ruby or if you've used Sinatra before, you're going to notice that the code could be better. So, okay. All right. So anyway, welcome to my app. It is called Dish Buddy. It is a place where you can connect with other people who have saved restaurants to something called their dish list. And yeah, you can follow their feeds and look up restaurants yourself and save them to your own dish list. So let's get right into it. So it's actually on Heroku, so you can go look at this yourself, and the link is going to be in the description for anybody who wants to take a look. Feel free to sign up and search for some restaurants, and yeah, let's get into it. So we'll go ahead and click register. I'm using Bootstrap for the styling on this app. So let's create a username of Phil, and if we just want to submit with that, it's going to tell us to fill out the required field. So we'll do phil@phil.com, and the password is going to be Phil, and we'll submit that. And it's actually going to throw back an error because the username has already been taken. I think Phil was the username that I made for all my test accounts. So we'll do Philip, and then philip@phil.com. Password is Philip. Submit. Okay. So we are in. This is the dashboard. It's going to give you a greeting. Good to see you, Philip. It's going to give some statistics on what's going on with the site right now. It will show the most recent restaurants that have been saved and the most recent user up here. Once again, using Bootstrap for all of this. So 56 people have actually signed up for the app. I don't know where all those people came from. It's probably all me. So let's start off with the user profiles. So actually, we can see what a public profile looks like if we click welcome to our newest user, Philip. So go ahead and click on that. And you'll see that it's going to be pretty basic information, just stuff on that user. You can follow users, and I actually haven't made it so you can't follow yourself, but whatever. So it will show what restaurants there are. It's going to show their friends, how many reviews they've written, and how many restaurants they've saved. So let's go to my profile, which is your profile if you want to edit it. So we can say, my first name is Philip, last name is Philip, phone number is Philip. You can actually put characters into that, so. And we'll go ahead and save it. So you'll see that those are the fields that are filled out. If you want to delete the account, you can click delete right here, and it'll send you back to the home screen, or the login screen. So now if we go to the public profile, you'll see that those details are filled out. So anyone who goes to this public profile will be able to see that. Okay, so we'll go to the search option. So let's see, where do we want to go? Well, give me a place. That's not somewhere that we would normally pick. Random. Let's do yeah. Let's do El Paso, Texas.
Sure. We'll say Albany.
Albany?
Yeah.
All right, I did ask you, so we're gonna go with Albany. Albany. Alrighty, New York? Mm-hmm. All right, Albany, New York. So what it's doing is, actually, if we go back here, it's pulling from the API and it's seeing what Albanys are stored in the API. So the API is really focused for the United States, so it's gonna come back with the majority, if not all, of the Albanys in the United States. So we're gonna do the Albany in New York. And then it's going to go ahead and find all the eating establishments that are in that location that you just chose. So it's taking the location, it's going back to the API and figuring out what establishments are there, and it's giving all the establishments to list. So we have all these here. Let's do taqueria. If we click this, literally, there's five restaurants and they're all Chipotles. Okay, so I don't really like that example, so let's go back. Let's do a juice bar. No. Let's do dessert parlor. There we go. Okay, well, it's supposed to give the top rated places depending on the establishment you chose for that location. So there's three Ben and Jerry's here. I don't know what Sweet Sue's is. Let's do Guptill's Coney Express. Also notice that there is a progress bar up here. So we'll select this restaurant. It's going to give back some basic information like whether it's good, what the rating is from the API, how many people voted on that rating, what neighborhood it's in, and just for aesthetic, the longitude and latitude. I don't think anybody's actually getting to it from the longitude and latitude. Same, yeah. If you give me an address, I have my compass, the sun.
That's it.
That's it. So.
Take my cell phone on my pirate ship.
Cell phone? What's that? So, okay, so it's pretty basic information. I wanted to make it so it showed the pictures, and I tried. So the API actually makes you pay if you want to pull pictures from the API, so I'm not paying for anything. So I tried to get around it and scrape the pictures from the website, but the website that I was scraping it from is dynamic, and it makes it really difficult, actually impossible to scrape it, so couldn't do that. But even better, I just linked where the website where they're all hosted, so you can go to a better version of this whole concept. So if, say, I wanted to write a review for the restaurant, I can go ahead and write it here. This is a review. You can submit that. And if you don't have it saved to your dish list, then it's not going to let you write a review. It's going to say you cannot write a review for a restaurant that you haven't saved to your dish list. So we'll go ahead and we'll save it to our dish list. And it'll return with a red button that says remove from dish list. And so let's say, I just love Guptill's Coney Express so much. It's great. Okay, so we'll submit review, and it's going to kind of come up in a comment style down below. I liked that simple review look of it, so I just kept that. It says Dakota loves your choice up here. He's our instructor. I kind of gave him a shout out in the last video. It's going to be like an Easter egg in each of my projects. So yeah, and that's pretty much the basis of the project. So if I go back to my public profile, you're going to see the restaurant that was saved on the profile. So you can see this is the 57th user. So let's go to the 43rd user and see who that is. m@m.com. Okay. So how about let's follow them, just so we have that. So we're following m@m.com, and if we go to our profile, we can see who we're following. Click following, and they're right there, and we can click on their profile, and we can, follow their feed. And I should probably make it so the people you're following, their feed comes up on the homepage. But yeah, that's pretty much my project. Same thing here. Say if you do that, it'll start up the search process for you, and then you log out, and yeah, that's it. So let's get into the code. Alrighty, so here's the code base. So once again, we're using it's Ruby, and we're using Sinatra, which is the library or the framework that handles all the routing of the project. Excuse me. We're using Active Record, which is what connects everything to the database. We're using SQLite 3. Actually, the live version is using Postgres for the database, but for my local code base, we're using SQLite 3 to store all of the information. Anything else? I don't think I'm not using any custom dependencies. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I use to create the project. And so let's kind of just go through it quick. So we have the app folder, which stores all the controllers. So we're using MVC, which stands for Model View Controller, for the architectural pattern for the project. So I'm not going to get into explaining MVC if you don't know what that is. Maybe we can make another video explaining it because it's kind of a broad concept and it's going to take too much time in this. So assuming you know what MVC is, we're using that. In my controllers portion of MVC, I have a few controllers. One for the application controller, which is kind of the base controller, and all my other controllers are going to be inheriting from the application controller. Friendship controller, which I actually don't need because I didn't use. That's just an extra file. Same for the restaurant controller. So the only three controllers that I'm actually using is the application controller, search controller, and user controller. So in my application controller, I have, it's inheriting from Sinatra base, so it can use Sinatra's code base for it. This configure code block is setting the session secret, which now everybody can see. So that's okay. If you want to play with it, you can go and hack my site. That's fine. So anyway, we have the session secret set up here. The session is essentially something that stores user information based off of the cookies in the browser that will allow you to stay logged in to the website. It's allowing that whole authentication process to happen when you do log into the website. And that way when you go away and then you come back, you'll be logged in still until you log out or if it times out. And I actually haven't set a timeout parameter on it yet, so you'll just stay logged in until you do log out. So yeah, pretty simple. Right below, we have a not found, which is just the 404. So if you try to go to a route, we can do that right now. If you try to go a route here, say that, it's going to give you, looks like you goofed, better head back. And it's going to do that. If I click home, since I'm not logged in, it's going to go back to the login screen. We have just a basic get route, which is going to redirect you to home. Does the same thing as what I just did. The basic register route, which brings you to the register page. This is kind of some of the logic for the register. It's setting the user ID in the session to 0 to indicate that there is no user saved in the session, therefore nobody should be logged in. And then we are just using some basic logic to see if what they're trying to use what they're trying to pass in for information in the register if it's not already in the database. That didn't make sense, but that's okay. We have get and post routes for login. So if you go to /login on the website, it's going to bring you there. Once you submit the form to log in, it should redirect you, or it's going to redirect you again to the login page if you typed in bad information. So let's actually just do that really quick. Do random stuff. Username and password was incorrect because it's not actually an account. Alrighty. We have a couple helpers. Helpers are essentially just methods that can be used throughout the majority of your application. And it's essentially to make it so you're not repeating your code. Do not repeat yourself. So in this helper, the only two helpers I have is it's a method called protected, and it's seeing if the user has been authorized, meaning are they logged in? If they're logged in, then they can access all these other portions. Yeah, and then the authorize method, which just checks to see if a user is saved in the session. So this protected method depends on this authorized method. So we'll go into the search controller. Actually, let's do the user controller first. So every route from here on out is going to be, I'm calling the protected method on it to make sure that nobody else can access the route unless they are logged into the website. So this is all for the users. It's just about the user's profile. It's displaying information and redirecting you to the view pages, depending on which route you're accessing. Yep, so just going through this, I'm not going to explain the code too much. That would make the video too long, and there's really no point. I'm going to have the link if you want to go take a look at the code up or in the description. But essentially, we have get routes for all of the things related to users. So whether it's your profile page or it's the friends page. And we're just doing some basic stuff in these routes, like setting variables that are linked to database entries, so we can use these variables in the view pages. Going down, yeah, we have a post route for the profile page. We have a get route for different users, so the public profiles. So here we're checking to see if the user is in the database, and the parameter is coming from whatever is typed in. So let's say we log in. So let's do this, users, and then let's type in user/3. So this 3 here is going to be sent as a parameter to the route. And so the 3 will correspond with the user ID that's in the database, or the primary key for the database entry. And then the post route for whether you're following somebody or not. And we'll go to the search controller. Same basic stuff. We have routes just for the different steps of the search process. Where it gets sort of interesting is in step 1, or the post route for step 1, because this is where it's starting to call from the API, and we're going to get into that once I just show my models. But essentially what's happening is it's checking to see if the city that you selected, if there is any return information in that API, and if there is, it's moving you on to the next step. On the next step, it changes at progress equals 40. 40 represents how far the progress bar there that you saw is completed or is filled in. Once again, we're now using new information, such as the establishment you're choosing, to do a new API fetch. And you'll see here API, capital A, and then lowercase pi is the name of the class. .fetch is a class method for the model. Scrolling down a little bit more here. We have a post for when you choose your establishments, or when you choose the actual restaurant, and then this is the get route for the show page for that actual restaurant. Once again, this code gets kind of convoluted. It's not the best written, but if you are interested in how it actually works, feel free to go take a look in the GitHub link. So here we're in the user class. It's inheriting from active record, and it has all these has-manys. Has-many is a reference to active record, and it allows the class or an instance of that class to communicate with its database entry. So say I create an instance of user, which would just be a new user. Now I can take that instance and I can call, say here, has many friends. I can call .friends on it, and it's going to show all the friends or people that user is following, and it's gonna respond with that as if you are doing a query in SQL or SQL. Let's go up to my. Do we want to do? Yeah, we'll do the search class. So this is a part of how the API works. Essentially what's happening is it's taking parameters that are being passed in. I'm calling this method inside of my controller, and I'm passing in attributes that are parameters being passed through the forms during post requests or a post route. And I'm manipulating the string, because that's the way that this API works, is it's going to return JSON information based off of the URL that's put in. And so I'm changing what the URL would be based off of what the user is requesting, based off of what the user chose. So you can see here that the base URL is going to start with this, and then I'm shoveling in addition to that string into the variable where I saved the base URL. And it's actually just an array, and then I'm joining that array at the end to make one long URL. So what's going to happen is it's going to take that URL and it's going to go into this fetch method in my API class. So this all looks a little confusing. This is my API key if anyone wants to use it. It's free, so go sign up for your own. So in this fetch class, it's a little confusing because it's actually using curl, and I have to use some built-in Ruby stuff like URI and net HTTP to convert that curl to something that makes sense to Ruby. So I'm not really going to get into this too much, but really what's happening is I'm taking that URL, and so when I call this self.fetch method, I'm passing in the URL. Search, this parameter search is the URL that we created in the search class in this linkify method. So I'm passing in the URL. I'm using the key to say, oh, this is me, I want this information, so it can validate it on zomato.com's end, the API's end. And then it's going to return unparsed JSON information. And then I'm taking the JSON, I'm parsing it here, and I'm calling on the body of that JSON. And so this is what's going to be implicitly returned from this fetch method. And then I can use that JSON data and I can sort through it and display that information, which is how it displays all of this stuff. How it displays all the establishments and the restaurants and all this information. It's all displayed from that. So yeah, that's my models. We'll go into my views briefly. And we'll see we have views for my restaurants, and it's essentially all the search stuff. And we have views for the users. So we have a login view. This is a lot, it's HTML for the login page. Same thing with the register page. This layout page is where I have all my main information, because what's happening is all my other views is inheriting from this layout page. So everything in the head here, like I'm calling my nav bar out here. I'm referencing to my Bootstrap style sheets here. So now all of my other views are going to have access to this layout.erb file. And where's that yield? This is where all the information from all the other views are going to be on this line. Yeah. So once again, it's a lot of code. Not going to go through the whole thing. If you want to look at it, go to GitHub. Really quick, I'll just touch on the database migrate files. So this is the users table. I have a username, email, password. Password digest is what it's called because we're using bcrypt to encrypt all the passwords. So it is safe encryption. First name, last name, phone number, location. So when somebody goes to their user profile and edits their first name, this is the column that it's going to be editing in that row. We have the friendships. So this is a join table. It's saying there's a user ID and a friend ID, and both of these are actually foreign keys, and they're just referencing to the user table. Restaurants, there's a bunch of information that needs to be saved for restaurants, so this is the restaurant table. And user restaurants, this is the join table for users and restaurants. Once again, we're using SQLite 3. Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I'll make sure I'm still recording. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about my project, feel free to comment or reach out to us. The Discord that both Phil and I are in is going to be in the description, so come on in there. We're both community managers in there, and we're happy to answer any questions, even if it's on your own stuff, hopefully related to Ruby, because we can't really answer any questions related to any other coding language yet. But if it's anything about Ruby, I think we'd confidently be able to help you.
I just want to talk.
Yeah, and we just love meeting friends. We just want to talk to people. So, yeah, come on through. Thanks for watching. I think my camera just shut off. No, it didn't? Okay, bye.